Yuuya is bullied endlessly until he finds a secret passage into another world. One day, Yuuya is walking along a road when he suddenly hears a damsel in distress cry for help. He's a kind-hearted person, even though he's been bullied his whole life. He goes to check what's going on and finds a young girl being harassed by 3 intimidating men. Even with the odds stacked against him, he doesn't look the other way and confronts the men. Not surprisingly, they bully him and beat him mercilessly until the police arrive, causing them to flee. The girl he tried to help attempts to assist him, but he's too ashamed and goes home in tears. As he returns home, he remembers the comforting words of his grandfather, assuring him that even in a wicked world, good and kind people would always prevail. He consoles himself at the thought of those words. Yuuya is bullied by everyone, even in his immediate family, who feel that he is not beautiful enough to relate to them. The torture intensifies when one day, Yuuya's grandfather, who was the only person that ever showed him kindness, passes away. Afraid that he has no one left in the world, he decides to stay in his grandfather's house. His parents try to take the property and savings that Yuuya inherited from the late man, but they are unsuccessful. In anger, they disown him and leave him to live alone, and he is forced to take a part-time job to make ends meet. At school the next day, he attends his school graduation and the bullying resumes. His tormentors delay him from getting to work on time, and when he gets there late, he's fired. He returns home frustrated, and when he enters the bathroom, punches a mirror, shattering it before punching the wall as well. Upon the impact, a secret door is revealed and he falls to the other side. He finds artifacts that belong to his grandpa inside. Going further into the room, he finds a strange door, and he opens it to find himself in another house. As soon as he steps in, holograms of status bars and menus pop up, and he sees some sort of level rankings, indicating that he has a skill level of 1. He checks his surroundings and realizes that he's in a house in the middle of a forest in a different world. While looking around, he finds a letter and realizes that he has inherited the place from the previous owner, and that the house is protected by magic too. Afterward, he decides to test out the weapons he finds and notices that he gains points as he uses them. He decides to pack the weapons into his magical item box and suddenly sees a giant ogre on level 300 hurtling toward the house. However, the magical shield prevents the beast from getting in. In a moment of sheer bravery and courage, Yuuya musters all his energy and throws a spear at the beast, killing it in the process. He receives item rewards for killing the beast, and his level is rapidly increased from 1 to 100. He even receives cash rewards that can be used in the real world. Later that night, before going to bed, his bones start to shift and all his muscles stretch out, causing him unbearable pain, which leads to him passing out. He wakes up the next morning to discover his body is extremely different. He now has defined muscles and chiseled abs. He doesn't read too much into it because he doesn't have a mirror to check himself anymore, so he just puts on some clothes and explores the new realm some more. Over time, he gains more points and becomes a lot better at handling the weapons and spends his days in the magical realm. But soon, it's time to get back to school. He resumes his new high school and is shocked at how much people are staring at him, but soon realizes that they are ogling him. Even his bullies don't recognize him, and when he introduces himself, nobody can comprehend the drastic transformation. After class, for the first time in a while, Yuuya checks his reflection in a mirror and is shocked to see the good-looking face that he's been wearing. At school, his siblings and bullies confront him about his changes and demand to know how they came about, but he gives them vague responses, provoking them even more. A while later, a luxury car stops and a girl comes out and introduces herself as the damsel in distress that he helped. She expresses her gratitude to him and reveals that her father is the chairman of the prestigious Wusei Academy and has offered him a chance to attend the school. He's reluctant at first, but decides to follow her on a tour of the school. They leave his spiteful siblings and bullies behind, and their hatred for Yuuya increases. At the school, Yuuya is shown around, and he's told that students of the school technically have guaranteed success in the future. He meets Kaori's father, who thanks him and offers him a scholarship at the school. He's reluctant to accept because he feels he's not good enough, but the man encourages him and suggests he take a trial enrollment. Before his first class, he was afraid that history would repeat itself in the new school, but to his surprise, all the students are nice, and he enjoys his day immensely as he makes new friends. At the end of the day, he accepts the offer and Kaori suggests that they hang out. During the little date, other girls stare at them and talk about how cute they are. Yuuya returns home and heads into the magical world to boost his stats. He decides it's time to head out of the house to face stronger monsters, and when he gets there, he hears a girl's screams and rushes to her aid. He manages to defeat the goblin holding her captive, but hides when some knights come to check on the girl. Thankfully, she's still alive. Yuuya decides to spend some of his earnings from his monster kills. He believes it's time to change his wardrobe, so he goes to the mall to buy some new clothes. He's still getting used to the fact that he now has the appearance of a Greek god, so he's still flustered when ladies stare at him endlessly. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the mall, a fashion photographer named Hikaru is getting very upset that the male model in his couple shoot hasn't arrived. The female model named Miyu doesn't mind waiting some more, but Hikaru is on a tight schedule and decides to do a sudden casting. As fate would have it, he finds Yuuya somewhere and pleads with him to do the shoot, and he accepts. Yuuya and Miyu dress in different outfits for the shoot, and he is simply mesmerized by her beauty and professionalism. Back in the fantasy world, the girl named Lexia, whom Yuuya saved, wakes up. She's a princess and expresses her intention to thank the stranger that saved her. In the mall, the main model named Sho arrives and arrogantly makes his presence known. Adoring fangirls cheer him as he makes his way to the shoot. He ignores Yuuya's presence and starts flirting with Miyu. Yuuya sees her discomfort and confronts Sho. The rude guy takes a swing at Yuuya, but he effortlessly throws him to the floor. The fans start cheering Yuuya, and Sho runs away, embarrassed. Afterward, Hikaru gives Yuuya designer clothes to show gratitude and offers him a contract, but he declines the offer and reluctantly accepts the gifts. They say their goodbyes, and it appears that Miyu has developed feelings for him. Later that day, in the fantasy world, Lexia and her guards are cornered by a horde of goblins in a forest, but once again, Yuuya comes to their rescue and shows impressive skill and strength to defeat the goblins. Afterward, Lexia thanks him and asks him to marry her, leaving everyone shocked. Meanwhile, in the normal world, Yuuya's photos are trending, and several modeling agencies are making moves to get him. After Lexia's shocking proposal, her head guard named Owen suggests that it's too sudden, but she's headstrong on the matter. Yuuya, however, invites them inside his house, and they're shocked to see that someone is living in the dark part of the forest. He hosts them, and they introduce themselves to each other before Lexia proceeds to reiterate her earlier proposal. As she's already concluded, Yuuya is a noble from another land. Seeing the discomfort on Yuuya's face, along with Owen's rejection of the idea, she decides to take things slow and asks that they be friends. Yuuya agrees, and afterward he escorts them to their carriage. A while later, Owen returns with an invitation from the king, but Yuuya explains his tight schedule and tells him he'll pick a date. Elsewhere, a masked man in the forest is scolding his men after a failed assassination attempt on Lexia, before giving them another chance to redeem themselves. Meanwhile, in the real world, Yuuya resumes fully at the prestigious academy. At PE, the boys play soccer while the girls cheer them on. Yuuya, however, isn't playing because his PE uniform isn't ready. He sits with a female student named Katie, and the two watch the match. However, when the ball is accidentally shot by Ichino towards Katie, Yuuya displays low-level soccer skills by using an impressive overhead kick to send the ball right into the net. Everyone is impressed at the feat, and the girls can't stop talking about it. Later that day, the school is disturbed by some hooligans led by Yuuya's former bullies and his younger siblings. They still resent Kaori for choosing Yuuya over them, and have come to abduct her. Yuuya fights off any remaining fear he has for his bullies and jumps down from the 4th floor to save her. He engages the hoodlums in combat and humiliates each one of them. The gang leader sees this and decides to step in, but he too takes his share of humiliation. Shortly, the police arrive, leading to a disagreement between Yuuya's brother and the gang boss. When the boss almost chokes his brother out, Yuuya intervenes and saves him. Shocked that he would help them after all they did to him, they realize their wrongdoings and beg for forgiveness. Afterward, the hero once again receives praise from everyone. That brings us to the end of today's recap. Thanks for watching.